Hey everybody, this is Daniel from Couch Potato Camping. Today we are going to show you the installation of our replacement blind in our 2021 Intech Sol Horizon. So as you can see here, our kitchen blind failed pretty miserably on a recent trip, and we had to put in a temporary strap so that we could keep our blind up and down during the trip. So what I'm showing here is the temporary strap that I used that would help keep our blind up. The internal lines in our blind failed. They essentially snapped. I believe they were installed too tight from the factory. As you'll see here, there are very few tools required for this installation. This installation is pretty easy, so I gave it a 1 out of 5 stars on the difficulty level. So you'll need a flathead screwdriver, a Phillips head screwdriver, and of course the replacement blind and hardware. So you'll see here, this is how the blind comes. It comes in a box from the factory. So step one is to remove the existing tie-offs at the base of the blind. You can see here I'm just screwing these out with a Phillips head screwdriver. Now these are self-tapping screws that are provided, and they're pretty easy to back out of the RV wall. Now in our case, you can see that from the factory, this lower tie-off was installed too low, and it's actually affecting the tile above our kitchen sink. I'll address that later in the installation. Next, I removed our temporary band that we put on the blind to keep it up. So here I'm trying to figure out exactly how it is that the blind sits in the clip, which rolls into step two, which is removing the top of the blind from the two clips that mount to the wall. As you can see here, I'm trying to gently remove the blind out of these clips. It is a pretty tight fit into these clips, which is a good thing. However, it does kind of feel like at times you might break the blind. What you want to do is rotate the front of the blind up slightly and then rotate the back end of the top of the blind out of the clip. Now here's a close-up picture of the clips that I left in place since those were still good. Step 3 is to install the new blind in the brackets provided that I left in the wall. Again, you kind of reverse it. You tip up the front of the blind, let it grasp that inner rail on the top of the blind, and then snap up the back into place. And you'll feel it. It's a pretty tight fit on both of those clips. Next, I just relax the blind and let it fall down. Now, from the factory, the lines that hold up the blind were kind of tight, so I will loosen up the lower clips so that I can release some of the tension on those lines. Now, step 4 is to install the new tie-offs at the base of the blind now that the blind is securely fastened at the top. So what you want to do is you want to take a flathead screwdriver and gently pry off the back of the two tie-offs. It's a clear kind of face covering that holds that. It actually acts as two things. It's part of the bracket itself, but it also provides tension on the lines, which you will need to adjust later in the installation. You can see here that's a close-up of the backing off that. And what you do is you feed the lines through and around the center portion of this bracket and then snap back on the back of this. Now again, later I will be adjusting this to adjust the tension on the lines, which actually gives you the ability to hold up the sections of the blind. Now, in our case, I was able to reuse one of the two existing holes for the lower tie-offs. I used the self-tapping screws that I had in the previous blind. And on the left side, this particular tie-off, I could simply screw in the screw back into the existing hole, and it held very tightly. Simply just screw it back in with your Phillips head screwdriver and make sure it goes in securely and tightly. Now on this side again, I'm going to relocate the location of the bottom tie-off so that it does not affect our tile on our walls. So I will put the tie-off just slightly to the right of the existing hole. Again, since these are self-tapping screws, I did not need to pre-drill this hole. I simply just screwed it in with the screw provided. And you can see here how I slightly moved up the lower tie-off so it sits at the top of our wall tile. Again, gently just screw this into the wall using your Phillips head screwdriver. And once this is in, then we will adjust the tension on the lines. Okay, now that both lower tie-offs are in, the upper bracket is holding the blind, we now need to adjust the tension on the lines. For this particular type of blind, the tension on these lines are what actually make it stay up and make it functional. So here I'm lowering the lower portion and then lowering down the top portion so I can get the tension correctly. So what I did is I gently loosened the faceplate on the lower tie off, backed out the screw slightly, and that gave me the ability to gently pull on the two lines to start creating some tension. Now again, you don't want to pull these too tight because I think that's what actually destroyed our other blind. I believe the tension on those two lines were too tight, and with the motion of the trailer going down the road, I believe that's what snapped the lines internally inside the blind. Here I'm just trying to figure out how much tension I need on the other side of the lines to make sure that the blind functions properly. Now again, on this side, I'm going to create a little bit more tension on that side, and then once I've done that, then I'm just going to tuck in the extra line and test the blind a couple more times. So here you can see that the blind is fully installed. The tension on the lines is enough so that the blind functions properly, but is not too tight that it's going to be snapped with the motion of the trailer going down the road. So that's it. It's pretty easy install. You just have to be gentle with these blinds. These are an industry blind. They're used across many types of RVs. And, it's one of those things that if it does fail, check with your RV manufacturer to see if it's a warranty issue and something that can be replaced. Ours was pretty simple. I just simply contacted Intech RV, filled out a warranty form, sent it in, and a few weeks later, they sent back a new blind. So thank you everyone for watching. We hope you enjoy this content. And if you could please hit the like and subscribe button down below. And if you have any questions, please leave those in the comments below.